is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please rise? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This will bring us to our first public comment portion on agenda items only. If you'd like to speak on agenda items, please approach the podium. And because the agendas are full, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Okay, we're going to move on. Any revisions to the agenda at all? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
I second.
Roll call. Brooks. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
McNamara.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, on the scheduled reports, partnership with Cary Schools, China, Wendy, and Dr. Barry, are you going to present?
We're going to kind of co-present.
Okay, awesome. Come on up.
Come on, sit right here and introduce you. So, but Buffy's got the slides, right? Okay. So, just quickly, I'm going to do a little bit of intro and then turn it over to Wendy. So we're going to try to provide you an overview of a collaboration that has gone on for 6 years. So this is really just an opening slide to give you a sense of these are the teachers that have come here. And Julie McDowell was one of the coaches who worked with them, and Buffy Lagore have had an opportunity to provide staff development around the pedagogy that has been used across the district, which has now gone to Cary School. So let me move to the next slide. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about who I am and who Wendy is. So I am a professor of educational leadership at Eastern Michigan University. I wear a few hats. I'm also the executive director of the International Council of Professors of Educational Leadership, which gives you some sense of why I work with and interact with Wendy. The past couple of years, I've led trips to Cuba. This past year, we did a trip to China. We have a trip going to Japan. Next year, Ecuador. So we are an international organization. I represent professors of educational leadership around the United States. So I got involved in this collaboration. And I won't go into details. I met Wendy. And Wendy, through this collaboration with EMU, said, gee, I'm looking for a U.S. partner. We ended up coming to a meeting here in Tecumseh for a lot of reasons I won't go into detail. And she interacted with Dr. Coffin at that time. And she said to Dr. Coffin, gee, I think I might like to be a partner. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Wendy. Oh, before I tell you about Wendy, I want to do this. The one thing I wanted to focus on in terms of understanding about this collaboration, this is a theory of learning or a theory of the core technology of education. It's been around a long time. But as part of this collaboration, we have tried to keep the focus on the student, teacher, and content. It is the core technology of any educational institution. You know, Richard Elmore would say, everything else is peripheral outside of the teacher, content, and student. The little line that we've used is we've tried to develop the curriculum and looked at the whole child. And we are saying we are trying to teach leadership, global skills, and cultural literacy. My focus has been on working with Wendy, Tecumseh Schools, to make sure the collaboration focuses directly on the student. Now let me explain to you a little bit about Wendy. Wendy is a successful entrepreneur who has interest in real estate, construction, financial, and medical services. However, education is her passion. And she is the school director, which really means that she owns the school. It's a private school in Zunyi, China, but she has the administrative staff who is handling the school. She's got a well-qualified staff. She began the school in 2009 with just over 400 students. 10 years later, it is about to become a fully K-12 school. That is, she's been adding 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. This next year, it'll be up to a full 12th grade. And so it will be over 900 students in 2019. It is the only all-private K-12 school in Zunyi. Now, a little bit in terms of Wendy and what she is looking for, why she came here in the first place. All schools in China operate under a curriculum mandated by the central government in Beijing. But Wendy was looking to look a little bit differently about how kids were learning in China, because it's a global economy. The diversity issue about, as I described it this way, IBM is looking for well-qualified students. Whether they hire from the US, Singapore, Japan, or China, they're looking for qualified students. Wendy said, I want my students to be competitive in the global marketplace. So she then reached out to Kelly, and she was looking for what I'm calling here a Western-style approach to teaching and learning, which she has implemented over the last 5 years through this Tecumseh Carey School collaboration. Now that's my little intro. The rest of the show really is Wendy.
Thanks everybody. Thank you for taking your time. I just give a brief introduction about Carey School and what's going on between Carey School and Tecumseh Public School Districts, and what bring me, how it benefits my business over there. Carey School, like just now Dr. Barry introduced, I started this school almost 11 years ago. And the school now, we got success in not only the students' credits, the students' personalized development, but also the recognition by parents and our administrators of government educational bureau, not only regionally in Zunyi, but also in our province. Like province is like your state, like Michigan State, Tecumseh, or maybe Ann Arbor is a city of the province. We have Carey School we have currently primary school, middle school, and high school. And we pay attention to children's intellectual growth, also the physical, mental, and social growth. And more parents now agree with the philosophy and all the strategies, the skills we do for their kids. So most kids in our school, their parents come from governors, doctors in hospitals, or physicians, and at least middle class people and people with financial ability. Yeah, because we have one child policy for the past year. So all the parents, they have high expectation for their kids. But now they changed the traditional idea, not only focus on their academic credits, but also their well-rounded development. Please, next one. Yes. This just the pictures we, our teachers here in Tecumseh. Okay, next one. Yes, these are the professional, the PD, the pictures shows the teachers, you see Julia McDonald, yes, all the teachers. Every year I took at least 12 teachers coming over here to get PD, and not only in PD, but also the teachers improve, they are improved for the global or the diverse cultural understanding. So after the teachers go back to Carey School, they used the idea and performance-based learning, student-based learning, and they try to create a lot of creativity to make the students engaged in class learning and try to help them how to learn, learn in group, how to collaborate, how to synergize. Yeah, this is just the map for Carey School teachers use what kind of strategies, and mostly taught by Julie McDonald and Buffy and some other, I cannot clearly remember the names. Yeah. Okay, keep going. Thank you. All the trainings. Yeah. And we have another program between Carey School and Tecumseh is we do summer camp. So Deidre, how many times? I think
2 years.
For
Yeah,
you,
with the second and third year.
For you, twice
Mhm.
you've been to Carey School, and many Tecumseh teachers they went to Carey School. They do summer camp. They do demo. They do PD over there, and we also provide the cultural trip for them and to help the Tecumseh teachers how our teacher synergize and work together for taking care of the kids. And also we try to make them realize why so many critics for the country, but China is really a big country with so many people. So why some extent we need central government, because most of people, they are farmers, and they don't have good education background. Even to some extent, most of the farmers, they have no, recognition in even the agriculture area knowledge. So that is why we introduce this reality to teachers in Tecumseh, why we focus on why I have the passion in education. Yes, this is the demo class our teachers did in Tecumseh classroom. We do Chinese traditional festival teaching. We share some different culture with kids in Tecumseh. Yeah, we keep going with the pictures. Yeah. Yes. So now you see Carey School teachers again travel to America for more training. Teachers not only studied teaching methodologies, but also experience the school's culture, the 7 habits. Yes, the teachers give the Tecumseh students a Chinese lesson in Mandarin, but also in English.
So if I can insert real quickly, I think Wendy said to me that she had, 60 teachers from her school have come over for PD over the last 6 years.
Yeah. So the campus tour, yeah. There's the Chinese class, yes. Okay. The year before last year, yeah, I was here, and both Carey School teachers and students went to Tecumseh Public School. We have exchange students here, and after the students went back to Carey School, the parents just came to me and say the kids learned a lot, but it helped them for their academic learning and the group learning. Yeah, this is what they learned in Tecumseh. Yeah, these are the teacher and the pictures in Tecumseh Public School.
These are her kids here.
Yes, yeah. You see, these are the not visiting scholar, I mean
They're on sabbatical from Eastern Michigan University. They came, there's a lot I could talk here about, I'll try and make it short, is that they came to Cary School, Wendy sponsored them, and Jeff Popko is right now the department head at EMU for English as a second language. Wendy requires English of all of her 900 kids. It's a required course of study. So he was there trying to help figure out how we could get more ESL teachers to Cary School. Dr. Linda Lewis-White has a background in reading, but helped put together a library there, worked on reading, and also trying to promote English language, spoken language.
Yes. Yes, this is the conference. Dr. Barry and Dr. Coffey were invited by, actually our educational building to give the speech on this conference. This lady is the vice mayor of our city, and when after he came to our school, and she was so surprised with the results, with the students. I mean, the behavior and all the presentation. So she asked me to prepare a conference for all the principals, the administrators, to introduce our experience, the programs we are doing with university and schools in the States. So that is why Dr. Barry and Dr. Coffey were invited over there.
And if I could insert that they were seeing the results of Wendy's efforts through their student achievement scores. Their scores have gone up significantly. I can answer questions about that later if you want to hear about it. But they were seeing not just the scores on academics, it's this whole child aspect. They're seeing there are differences that Wendy could articulate about how her children are now doing the group learning, facilitated learning, the problem-based learning. That's become an aspect of her curriculum. Her classes are much smaller than is typical. It's not uncommon at all for me to go and visit a school in China where you'll see 65 or 70 students in a straight lecture discussion format. Wendy's private school, classes 25, 30, very similar to what you see here, and she's implemented facilitated learning as I described it. And so the Educational Bureau, the Vice Mayor, think of her like a state superintendent of instruction. That's how many children she's responsible for. She basically said, wow, there's something going on here. They've given Wendy lots of latitude to implement the programs as she's describing.
Yeah. So these are the PD in Cary School. Dr. Barry talked with our administrators, principals about LMS, Learning Management System, and we do leadership, students' leadership and administrators' leadership, but also the teachers' leadership. Yeah.
I interviewed parents. They all wanted to, I was trying to understand what's different about what the experience, parents see in terms of an experience in Chinese schools versus what we are doing here. And one of the things that came through very clearly to me is parents there do see that their students are really grounded in the content area. But one of the parents specifically, at the end, I would always say, well, are there questions you have for me? And this parent asked me, he said, well, why is it that America has so many corporations, has all this creativity? And I describe even to my students, that is what I would describe as the main difference in the way we interact with our children. It's this creative aspect of it, this whole child, this affect, because they are excellent in terms of teaching the content, which is why Wendy has tried to bring in this Western style, more facilitated learning.
Yeah. Now this is the picture we do so many performance, because in public schools in China, I can say no school wants the students to do development in arts because they don't have time. Yeah, they have to focus all the time in credit study. So, but in Cary School, we have so many festivals, like Science Festival, Art Festival, diverse cultural festival, something like that. So this one shows last year the professors from ICPEA, which is the organization Dr. Barry served over there. They came to Carey School, observe the result of the Western style teaching, the methodology. Yeah, they had a conference in Swindon last year. And I have to introduce these two girls. One is the daughter of Dr. Barry. They spent one semester last year in Carey School. I can say this is part of the exchange program. And the two girls spent 5 days dormitory,
It's a residential school.
boarding school in Carey School. Just to spend weekends at my apartment. And after 4.5 months, they came back independently, without any conflict. I just, take them to the airplane's crew.
Delta has an escort service.
Yeah, so they just come back. And the kids, they have very good relationship, and they learned with each other, because some of our kids can speak French, English, and I set them in one dormitory. They can communicate, they can learn with each other. Yes, these are some, we have summer camp, and every year, after the summer camp, every year, our parents give us very good assessment, a judgment. We accept way more than, most parents apply for the summer camp, but we have to refuse, because we only have 7 or sometimes 5 teachers from Tecumseh. Yeah, these are the cultural.
These are Tecumseh teachers.
Tecumseh teachers, because I set up the trip to some minority village, because I have to let them know we have so many places, very poor, very background, and how to say, not developed, very conservative.
Do you know the number off the top of your head, how many teachers from Tecumseh have been? Has it been over 30? Do we know?
At least
30.
I think
30.
30.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yes, I think, you see, these are the music class, these are art class. Mike, did you see you? You are right in the middle. I think Tecumseh teacher also observed our teachers, how they do class teaching in the classroom. For our teachers, once they finish their class, they try to spend the time to go observe the other classroom. They try to listen to the other teachers do teaching and give advice, how to, they discuss how to do group learning, how to give project-based learning for the kids. So for the teachers, we have we have four points to make them assessment. One is you do your academic teaching. The second one is how you work with the grade, because we do class teaching. If you learn mathematics and we coordinate the Chinese or English and art and sports together, to support the learning. So we try to make students be well the content learning is for use, not for credits. Am I right? Yeah, my English, I'm sorry for my English. So this is one point. Point two, two is from your the assessment from grade. And point three is access from the street subject department. I mean, like Department of Mathematics, Department of Art, that's it. And the point four is from the parents and the kids. Are they satisfied with your education? Okay, this is our expectation. What should schools be doing and saying to ensure that students understand and can apply what they learn in order to prepare them for a world we do not yet know? Yeah. Okay, at last, I have to say what brought me here, not only for the PD or the collaboration with Tecumseh, because of I contribute money, effort, and time for education. So our government encouraged me and to allow me get a very good contract with being a rehabilitation center, because the senior citizens now in China is growing up, the group is growing up. And I'm here, and another task is try to think about the collaboration with like ProMedica, University of Toledo and EMU for nursing, for nurses training, for physicians training, doctor assistants training. So, but it's, I was heard, maybe something is not very happy. I mean, maybe we are gonna cut the collaboration. But I think it's a right time, because not only because of the economic, but also the students in individual development. I just stand here to do the presentation about what's going on between Kerry and Tecumseh. And I hope all the kids in different areas, they are educated to prepare to be the global citizen. Thank you.
I'm just going to clarify a little bit. Wendy is not just here because of the collaboration. We've had a series of meetings over the last 5 days where we've met with the president of St. Joseph Mercy Health. We've had ongoing conversations with ProMedica, University of Toledo, EMU, because Wendy is developing a private healthcare system in her city. There's way more I can tell you, but she's not here only in terms of education with Tecumseh. It's broadening the scope in terms of training doctors and nurses in a broad spectrum of medical areas, allied health professions. So I wanted to get the little closure thing. We can put that up, so I wanted to do that. If it's got to wait, Buffy. Really, all I wanted to say is that Carey School is evidence that, done with fidelity, the pedagogical practice implemented at Tecumseh is successful. She's had great success at her school. She is appreciative, and we will continue to implement a whole child approach to teaching and learning. And we are going to go down the road. Tecumseh and Carey School students and teachers have benefited from the opportunity in terms of educational practice and the cultural experiences. So I just wanted, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I wanted to share that. And then Wendy has committed significant financial resources, and we can go into detail, you can ask questions, but she's committed a significant amount of money to the community, to the program, for this to continue for really the next 10 years. We had worked out that this was going to go on for quite some time, but things, as you know, are like, well, we have to kind of sort that out. That's why we're here. And then I guess I want to be clear about myself. I've got a board, so I've said this to my board. I'm not saying anything to you that I haven't said to my board. It's clear that my board is professors from around the United States. They tell me what to do, how to do this. We work together in terms of collaborating to do what we're trying to do for training professors around the United States. But I tell them, my real constituency are the 55 million kids in the U.S. In China, there are about 260 million. If they were a voting bloc, I would like to say that they are my constituency. But as we all know, it's a constituency that doesn't vote. So I'm trying to be their advocate as best I can. There are issues out there, but my focus, if you had me as a student, I'd like to think Dr. Berry tries to keep the focus. The main thing is to keep the main thing on the main thing. It's teaching and learning. Student, content, and teacher. Everything else is peripheral. And so, in terms of our collaboration, we're going to continue to do that. That's how the collaboration came about. And so, I guess that's part of what, conversation. Can we go forward? Is there a place for us to be able to go forward? And, to kind of conclude here, there are people in the room. I do want to, acknowledge Julie and Buffy and Deirdre, and I'm currently both here. Yes, Julie. I didn't know who to talk to in terms of, being able to validate what we're saying up here. I'm saying, gee, we're just talking, telling you what we see from our perspective. But there are people here that, if you'd like to share, that I think has been a very successful collaboration. So that's our presentation. We're happy to take questions. There's a lot we haven't told you. There is nuance to what Wendy has shared that I'm happy to come back or explain to you tonight. It's really whatever you prefer. I don't know if you'd like to share.
So just to kind of piggyback on what you said, the impact that this has had on our family, I think there was a misconception in the community that Tecumseh Public Schools was footing the bill for teachers to go to China. My entire family went to China courtesy of Wendy. Stand on the Great Wall with your kids at someone else's expense and tell me that's not the best experience you've ever had, okay? As a teacher, I became a better teacher because I trained Wendy's teachers. It made me reflect on what was important in the classroom. And what was amazing to me is I've actually been able to go to Zunyi twice now after training their teachers, and I've been able to see, okay, I worked with her teachers on DII, direct instructional, effective teaching strategies, direct interactive instruction. So that formative assessment, engagement strategies, all kinds of research-based teaching practices that have been around and proven for the last 40-some years, I got to see those in action in China. I got to see Tecumseh's impact in China. So, and let's just call it what it is. Wendy is offering to bring students to our district at $10,000 a head. How do we turn that down? How do we say, no thank you, we don't want to participate in this? These are our students, this is our opportunity to lose. So I'm asking you to really consider this. Also consider the fact that she purchased a home in the city of Tecumseh. For those of you who have kids, I don't know about you, my kids are expensive. They cost a lot of money, especially if they're athletes, okay? So think about all the trips to the grocery stores that those kids are going to be generating in the city of Tecumseh. So it's not just the $10,000 foundation allowance that we're going to get from the state of Michigan. It's all the trips to Bush's, it's all the trips to Kohl's, it's all the other things, and most importantly, it is bringing global citizens to the city of Tecumseh. My kids are forever changed because of their interaction with Wendy and her students. Thank you.
A couple of questions, just how Cary School works. Who's going to answer it? How does the Chinese national standard testing affect the Cary School?
Ask it again, how does Chinese national standard testing?
Testing, they use standard testing in China.
It's called the Gaokao. It's a very high stakes exam. I kind of summarize it this way. For every 100 students who want to go to university in China, they have one slot. So you have 99 students. That 99th percentile is a very, very good student. And so they don't have the capacity to accommodate the numbers of students who want to go to university. So part of the interest and part of this collaboration is, to be able to give them an opportunity to come to the States. But Wendy also has collaboration in Singapore and Japan. So she's really looking to find collaborative partners because there is a huge demand for higher education in a high-stakes exam process. A lot of those students will end up going into blue-collar work or, you know, the kind of work that doesn't require a college education.
So do all of the ninth graders, when they take the test in Cary, do they get into your high school then?
Pardon me?
Do all of your ninth graders, when they take this national test, are they allowed into your high school in Cary? My understanding was that in China, not everybody gets into high school. It's based on passing.
It's
the
more
national-
university. They can get into the high school. There is high school for everybody.
No,
No.
I have to correct you.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
not all the kids can get into high school, because we don't have this many high schools. It makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so that is why I just mentioned, we don't have so many people
What,
to be well educated.
what I was looking at is the success of your school, since you're training them from K through 9. Are your ninth graders doing well on that test?
Yes, not only tests, but we got the approval from the government. Even the students failed in the middle test. You make sense? The middle test is from middle school to high school,
Right.
but we have the authority to choose or to decide whether you can get into our high school or not. But there is a basic credit. I mean, not like the other. You have the basic learning ability. Is that right? Yeah, like the 4 credits is 750 credits, but you at least get 3 credits, 300 credits. You make sense?
Right.
Yeah, so we can choose you. But for the public schools, even you get 400, but they don't have this many, this many opportunity for you, because we have more students.
Do the students go, how many hours a day do the students go in traditional Chinese?
Even students in elementary school, they do homework 10 o'clock, that is the early time.
Okay.
Maybe 11 o'clock in 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night.
And then get up and go to school the very next day,
Yeah.
Yes.
7:30?
In my reading,
Sure.
I'm preparing for this.
7:30, sometimes 6:30. So a lot of kids, they got tired of.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, yeah.
There's such a press, because of the one-child policy, especially the last 30 years, I don't know how to communicate it, but, you know, you only have one child. Parents invest everything into that one child. And so there's real press to do well on the academic exams. So Wendy's school is no different than many schools. Parents will have Saturday classes, they have evening classes. My granddaughter who was there, I think that she was in the dormitory, and I think I forget the time lights out are, but you know, they study, they have study time. And that's pretty typical for really, most Chinese households have this real focus on academics.
Well, in my reading, it says it was because so much of the test means so much to them.
That's right.
That
It's high stakes,
a lot of
really high
schools,
stakes.
a lot of schools have a 2-hour break, and the kids spend their time studying in that 2-hour break so they do better at the testing. And a lot of them spend a lot of time in the summer school to get ready, because that 9th grade test is so important.
Yes, you're dead on. But I will say, Wendy's construction company built a junior college. The government recognizes we can't all have academic, trained students going off to the university. They don't have the capacity. So Wendy built basically a junior college about the size of Washington Community College. And what was a field, when I went there, first year I was there 6 years ago, it was a field. Wendy took me to see this, and there was a building that was going up, and so I thought, well, that's pretty cool. 3 years later, I came back, and there's a whole complex of 15,000 students and, 25 buildings. But the government is making an investment in vocational schools, the trades, because they just don't have the capacity in those areas as well. There's a need, there's a demand.
Yeah, and why Cary School now we don't have to do any advertisement, and we do advertisement only through the parents' mouth. And we shorten the size of class. You see, most public schools, they have 60, Julie has been over there, 60 students, yeah, sometimes 75 students in one classroom. Yeah, and we just, maximize is 30 students, that's it. And we improve the strategies, how to give the class teaching to the students. So for the past years, and we do learn a lot from Tecumseh. So I have to say I appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the teachers who gave PD and went over Carey School. We really learned a lot. So our teachers know how to do students-based learning, how to prepare the lessons, how to make the class teaching effective, and how to make the students engaged learning.
I will just echo, I do go and observe the classes. I can tell you, when I walk through and do my little check of classroom instruction, some of her teachers will just knock your lights out, how good they are. They are excellent, excellent teachers, and I tell you, they've taken what they've learned here, they've applied it.
I can tell you from my experience with Dr. Berry that he made me a better educator when I was a student of his at Eastern Michigan University. And I trust his instincts, and I trust the fact that if he says that this collaborative is a good idea, I know it is. I would have given anything as a superintendent in previous districts to have a opportunity for my staff to be able to go and collaborate with other countries like this. Probably one of the best things that happened at Grass Lake when I was there was we were able to host students from Chile for 30 days. And we learned more than they did, quite frankly. The cultural experience for our students, cultural experience for our teachers was outstanding. And so I commend Tecumseh Schools for this kind of an initiative. I would hope that this kind of project would continue. I think the benefits to our staffs, our benefits to our students is tremendous. It's something that probably we can't duplicate any other way. The whole cultural experience, to find out what's going on in other countries, to take a look at how they teach, to learn from them, for them to learn from us, it's just, it's an experience I wish, I hope that maybe someday I'd be able to do that. Dr. Berry, why don't you ask me? Okay.
Not right now.
Is there anything planned for this summer, do you know, or?
Well, actually, things have come to a screeching halt, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And so I initially talked to Wendy
Why?
last fall, because there's
We were asked about it when this.
a lot of folks who have to do things to get things done. There's a lot that goes into having teachers come here. We have to have visas, airplane tickets, we have to have accommodations arranged, transportation. It's not a small thing.
I guess I'm just wondering why the assumption was made that it had to come to a screeching halt. I mean, this is really the first I've heard of this collaboration, and I've never seen an overview of it, or this is really the first experience I've had with the great things that have been going on, which they sound very, very awesome.
I have to tell you, it was actually pretty exciting. But I gotta tell you, there's no one to call to arrange these things. Everybody disappeared. I mean, we can't.
Well, Griff was here, you obviously got with him and we got it arranged.
Well,
And
things would have
actually
had to
someone-
happen at this time, to have all this happen. It just was, things were,
Well, we didn't even hear about it, period, until a few days ago. A week ago, we had a special meeting planned just for you.
yeah, that's correct. That's how long it took just to set this up, though. Because I think probably in November, I began talking about when do you need to come and do this? And I think a lot of it was, okay, what do we do? I mean, people, are they prepared for folks to come, PD, all of that? I mean, all I can tell you is it's not
you're here,
so
that's
simple.
good.
It's not so
Right.
simple to just say we're coming.
I think what we can, I would hope that what we can do is make a commitment to continue the relationship. And then, figure out who's gonna be responsible for getting that done. Obviously, we can't do anything about what's happened over the last few months, but we can do something about moving forward. Okay, and so I would hope that, as a school board and as a community and as a teaching staff, we can sit here and agree that this is something that is good for everyone and we can move forward with it.
They're addressing this to you, not to me. They're talking about, working with you. I want you to be the focal point, not me.
We had a conversation about this. We were told that it was a 10-year commitment, and we were asked if we wanted to continue it, and we said yes.
So,
That was in January. So I'm not sure why that information didn't get to you.
Because you fired the person
But I
that was
know-
given the information.
I'm sorry, is this your conversation?
Just
My
saying.
understanding was it was in the works, so I apologize if that didn't happen.
Yeah, I'd never realized there was any action needed on our part. Nobody ever said anything.
So what do we need to do to go forward with you?
So do you need, the understanding I'm getting here is that because of the departure of personnel, your contact person and the organizers were suddenly missing. Is that?
All of the pieces that are at this end was just not there.
Okay, so we just need to put those pieces back into place and get it back up and rolling on our end then, right? Not that simple, I know.
It's not that simple.
But an oversimplification would be that. So this is something that you could get with our superintendent right now and get into place. I'm not sure how much time you have and how much time he has, but something that right now we could get started and keep the program rolling as it was intended. That would, I think, be the board's intent here.
I'm afraid I have to go back to discuss with our, school board and our board for the investment of county school. Yes, we need time.
She owns her school, but she also,
She has a board of
about
directors.
Chinese politics.
Right.
But nothing happens without her discussing and working with the Educational Bureau in her city. So she had to get permission even to do this. And so with all of what we described, some of those things have to be sorted out. She has to sort out. She has explored, I have to be honest with you, other schools who would love to be a part of what she's doing. This last Friday, we were in Washington and spoke to the National Association of Secondary School Principals. So they even offered up to Wendy, we'll make other contacts with other schools if things aren't able to work out. So they're going to be, actually NASSP is looking to send a team over to her school in the fall because Wendy is making contacts in the Chinese government to train principals in China. So Wendy has impeccable connections, at least in her province. But I can tell you, it goes beyond that.
Yeah, and I guess from us, I would like to see an overview of exactly what is involved in this relationship and, what has happened in the past and what
I would
could
like
happen
to
in the
see,
future.
what I would like to see is this board make a commitment to say to Wendy, we'll go back, see what you can do, to see if we can get a commitment to continue this relationship, and let's move forward.
Absolutely. We thought it already was, so.
But like I said, I want to know more about what this relationship exactly is.
Okay?
So Wendy, do you think you could do that? Could you go back and let the people that you know, the people that are governing your school and you report to, or whoever it is, let them know that Tecumseh Schools would like to continue being a part of this project? And we'll try to do the best we can to work through this, whatever we need to do to make sure that we don't have any kind of a discontinuation of what's been going on here with you guys. Can we do that?
Yeah, I
Great,
will do
that'd
that.
be good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for getting tonight. We're going to make our exit. Hope that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
you so much.
Dr. Berry, it's good to see you.
Brad, I'm talking to you.
All right, the next item on schedule reports is Mr. Griff Mills, flex time at the high school.
Okay. If you don't mind keeping that picture
picture of. It's a great picture. First thing, I don't think there was ever any, just to kind of speak to some of your questions, there was never any concern that, or any stoppage of this. Wendy was coming at a certain time during the year, and this is the time, and she wanted to meet you guys and present and give you guys information, just to make sure that everybody was still on the same page. So that's kind of where it was at. A neat thing, really quickly. Parker, one of my English teachers, and I've kind of told you guys this before. We want to start Mandarin Chinese next year in the high school, and we've got one section right now planned to have that happen. But earlier, before the meeting started, him and Wendy were talking, and it was phenomenal. I didn't understand a word they said. But just imagining our kids being able to carry on that conversation, and Parker's getting ready to sit for his certification test May 23rd. Does that sound right? And I asked him, I said, have you had any practice talking to anybody? He's like, no, that was, what did Wendy say about your Chinese?
It was impeccable.
Impeccable. So we're excited about that. So thank you for this opportunity and continue moving forward with this. It's going to be exciting. So tonight, the reason I'm actually here, that building, I love that picture. It's a beautiful building. We are very blessed to have something like that, the resources around it. We have wonderful teachers in it. We have wonderful kids in it. We're very fortunate in terms of that high school. And tonight I'm going to talk about, you asked me to talk just for a few minutes about a small piece of time and what happens during that time. Flex time at the high school. So, flex time, what is flex time? Flex, and I tried to highlight it in red for you guys, stands for Flexible Learning Experience. And it is a block of time in the high school that happens every day from 2 to 2:45. So about 45 minutes every day. Basically the process for that is our kids show up in the mornings with their Chromebooks. They go in and they schedule where they're supposed to be at. So that's the process. Our first hour teachers do a wonderful job of trying to make sure kids have all signed up. Mr. A every so often will spot check, every so often, maybe 3-4 days apart or whatever, just to make sure kids are signing up, that type of thing. And this is a graduation expectation that we have for all of our students in the building that do participate in this. The one negative about flex time, and this is really, we haven't found a way to get around this yet, is the PM Tech Center kids, our kids that do enroll and take college classes on college campuses, and our seat time waiver kids. They don't have the opportunity to do that because of where it's located time-wise in the day. But everything else has been wonderful, and I'll talk to you about that here in a second. You're doing a great job, Buffy. There we go. Ways we utilize this academically. It's been really powerful for us. Basically, kids can go to one of their 6 classes that they're scheduled in. And during that time, let's say either that morning or during that day or another previous lesson, they didn't understand what was being taught or they needed extra support. Kids can go back with that teacher during that 45 minutes and relearn that information, relearn what they didn't get. Another way we use it, kids are gone. They might miss a day. They were sick, or they had an athletic event, or they had something going on. They can actually they can take their exam during that time. Or if they didn't get the learning piece the first time and didn't do as well on a quiz or a test, they can retake that test or quiz during that time as well. Another way we utilize it, our music classes. Our kids are going through a lot of concerts right now. We've had ensembles, we've had the festivals, the state, we've had all those things. Kids can go in during that 45 minutes of time and get extra practice to keep honing their skills in terms of music. Art classes, projects, right? In art classes, kids work at different paces. Sometimes they need more time to work on those art projects. Woodworking and PE classes, all other different areas that kids can really get more time to work on whatever they need. Then the last thing is when a teacher can lock a student into their flex time for those 45 minutes. And basically what I mean is if I'm a math teacher and Mr. Simpson's struggling with math during that time, I can go in and lock him in and have him come back to me that same day or the next day. Our kids really don't appreciate that as much, but it's effective for our teachers. And again, it's a way we try to stay on kids and make sure they're learning what they need to learn. Another way that we utilize flex time are clubs and activities. And you guys, for a building the size we have 25 clubs that happen, and sometimes they meet during these times. Not every student or club can meet before school or after school. Transportation kind of gets in the way of that, but this is just kind of, I mean, I won't go through them all, but chess club, Parker's the chess club sponsor for that. Claim Your Campus, that's a new one this year. Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Fishing Club. Go to the next slide. GSA, Link Crew, Music Club, Quiz Bowl, our Robotics Club, which I think a lot of you are familiar with, Rocks, SAD, or Equations. Just a lot of different things happening at those times. One club, and since we're talking about clubs that I'm working on introducing into the high school, it's called Calling All Colors. And it's a diversity club where all types of different kids of different colors, races, they come together and learning takes place in terms of how to continue getting to know each other. Our kids, one of the things as principal for 9 years, our kids leave here and not every place they go looks like Tecumseh. And so helping them understand that and getting used to that and really being able to engage with different types of people is really important in today's world. So that's something that I'm working on. I'll give you an update later on that, how we get there. Other ways we use Flex. As you know, we did an SAT prep. Our math teachers and English teachers came together this year, and just for our juniors this year, but they put something together. Feedback I heard overall was very positive, but it's never good enough, right? We always can find ways to improve. What we're thinking right now is next year we'd like to start 9, 10, and 11, at least once a week during Flex, getting some SAT prep and really helping them with that piece. We've had special music guest performers. We have special speakers. On Thursday, the Orlowski and Gonzalez families, they came and they spoke to our junior and senior class. If you're familiar with their story, July 4th, around the weekend of July 4th, I think it was that Thursday or Friday, 2014, both young men, their kids, were killed by a drunk driver. I've never seen a junior class, 350, 400 kids sitting on the edge of their seat as these parents shared their stories. Moving forward to Saturday night, prom was awesome. We had a great night, a safe night. Thank you to all the people, I'll say that organized that, the after prom, all those things. It was just a great night. But there's an opportunity for our kids and us to help prepare them moving forward. We work on EDPs. Officer Rogers, beginning of the year, he spent time with every class and basically shared some of the ways you can get tripped up in high school from a legal standpoint. It's a different world that our kids are having to experience and go through than what we did. There's sexting, there's drugs, there's a lot of different things that kids can get in trouble with, and he really did a nice job trying to be preventative and help educate them in terms of what that piece looks like. We use class meeting time for this. Our special education teachers, they might have a student that they want to give a little bit more support to. They check in with that student. We have colleges come during that time for visits, peer tutoring. Our National Honor Society kids will work with students during that time. Leadership opportunities. Our kids will go over to other schools and read and interact with kids, whether it's elementary, whether it's a middle school, they interact with them. Our kids go to the assisted living during that time. They give to the community. And then lastly, I just threw this on there, our kids meet with counselors during that time. So, as you can see, it might be some of the best 45 minutes of time in our high school. It's used for so many things, academically, connecting to positive clubs, and then ways that we can use it to help moving our kids forward. That's Flex Time in high school. Questions?
Do you have any idea, like, what is used most? I mean, is it half academic? Is it all clubs? Is it?
It's a little bit of everything.
And when they leave the school, is school out right after Flex Time? So
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. 2:45. Boom. They're done, and kids are leaving. I'll be honest with you, Suzanne. It's whatever that need is. For instance, prom. We had a need to try to get a message across to our kids to be safe, and the Orlowskis and Gonzalez's agreed to do that. So we can use it that way. The kids, it's based on what they need in terms of they
I just wondered if you had any idea how kids use it.
It's everything. Our clubs do meet. There's a calendar basically, and there's a schedule for how they meet and go through those things. So.
Do all teachers allow the retaking test and exam?
Majority of our teachers do.
Okay.
I don't know one that doesn't, I'll be honest with you. So the majority of our teachers do that, and I like the idea, I like the philosophy. It's something we talked about probably 5 years ago. If you didn't get it on Monday, okay, then let's work through the week and see if we can't make sure we have it by Friday or whatever that time period is. But kids have to work, they just don't get to take a test and not put the work in. That's not how it's set up.
How long has that been going on? The retaking?
I would say probably the last 5 years, and I'm just guessing. We did a book study as a staff. It's called Fair Isn't Always Equal. And that was one of the things in the book that we talked about as a staff and really moved forward with it.
Is it done on every grade level throughout the whole school?
9 through 12. Yep. Yep.
Well, I think it kind of helps them understand the material more.
Yes.
I mean, the last thing we want is a student that doesn't understand the material.
Yes. Yep, no, I wholly agree with you.
Or knowledge.
Yep. Well, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is a video on competency-based learning that was recorded at the Michigan State Board of Education in November.
Is that over here?
I'm not sure where you have to get it up on your.
Now, where did this come from, Tim?
I
Is it in there?
haven't got anything.
Well, you can probably pull it up on your email over there.
What would you like to do?
Sophia, I can send a link to you.
I'm not signing it. You send it to
Okay. Yep.
Because if you're going to email.
I just sent it, so.
Okay, so this is showing that it's 2 hours and 40
All right,
minutes.
we're gonna start at the 58-minute mark.
50 minutes.
Yeah. We're gonna sit here for 2 hours.
Are we looking in hours?
About a half hour. About a half hour.
Oh, no, we're starting. Bring some popcorn.
Okay, we're gonna cherry pick some.
Yes.
Got it. Superb.
I'm taking for the rest of the minutes. Good job. Turn this here.
Variances for us today. Thank you very much. And I want to note the team did amazing. They did 40 minutes exactly with all these presenters. So that's all you got. So thank you. The next item on the Committee of the Whole agenda is a presentation on competency-based education. Our speaker today is Peter Green, who is a retired teacher and author, and he is here to present on competency-based education. This is an information item only, does not require any action on the part of the board. And Mr. Green, welcome to the Michigan State Board of Education meeting.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to make the drive to Lansing from Western Pennsylvania. It wasn't cold and snowy enough back home, so I appreciate being here. Just a little bit about who I am. I was a classroom teacher for 39 years, high school English, grades 7 through 12. I taught primarily in a small town, my hometown, Franklin, Pennsylvania, which is about halfway between Pittsburgh and Erie. I retired in June of this year, and now I'm a stay-at-home dad with two 17-month-old twins. About 10 years ago, I became interested and involved in what was going on in education. I started to educate myself, started writing, started blogging. And at this point, in addition to my own writing, you'll find me on the Forbes website, you'll find me on the Progressive website, and occasionally I pop up in the Washington Post. So that kind of exposure has, in turn, brought me in contact with a lot of people around the country with a lot of concerns about different educational issues. I talk to them, they contact me. So I've gathered a lot of information about what's going on with several ed reform topics, including competency-based education. However, I'm a retired teacher. I'm perhaps the only person who's going to come talk to you about this whose upcoming paychecks do not depend on what you decide one way or another. And I apologize in advance if some of the information I give you is information you already have. I'm sure that many of you have also educated yourselves. But what I'm going to give you is a particular perspective from my point of view and from what I've collected about this. First thing to understand about competency-based education is that it is not new. In the old days, it was called mastery learning. Mastery learning goes all the way back to the 1920s. It was popularized in education in a bigger way in the late 60s, and the idea then as now was fairly simple. The fundamental idea is fairly simple. All students can achieve high levels of learning given enough time. In the 90s, it was renamed outcome-based education. That initiative failed for several different reasons. In Pennsylvania, we were kind of ground zero for both the presenting of outcome-based education and the end of it. I, like many teachers, had gone to maybe a half dozen trainings for how we were going to make this big transition, and then suddenly we weren't. Both of those movements left some marks on education and on teacher practices, but as total movements, they were never completely successful. Current iteration, competency-based education, sometimes called proficiency-based learning, is also having problems. The basic idea is simple enough. In traditional education, we get the student for a set amount of time, we teach them as much as we can in that time period, and then we evaluate how much we've taught them and we decide whether it's enough to move along or not. The time is the fixed quantity and the amount of learning is the variable. CBE simply proposes that we flip that we have the amount of learning be the fixed quantity and let time be the variable. That speaks to a tension that has always been in education. We've always wanted to teach students a certain amount of stuff, but we've always only had a certain amount of time to teach it to. And the larger principle, the idea of flipping it, makes a certain amount of sense. But as with many big movements to change education, we start to run into problems when we get into the specifics. And let me just run through some of the pressure points or problem points that we run into trying to implement competency-based education. We have to set proficiencies. In other words, we need a list of things that students should be able to do when they graduate. Nowadays, districts are inclined to start with Common Core because it's a handy list of standards that's already there. Your state is still calling it Common Core. In Pennsylvania, we're one of the states that threw Common Core out by erasing the words Common Core from all our standards and bringing in Pennsylvania state standards. But it's still the same thing. The problem with using Common Core as a foundation is that it really only covers math and reading. And in the case of reading, it doesn't actually cover content. So if your idea of what a student should know when they graduate from high school includes a list of certain works of literature, Common Core is not going to provide that for you. And of course, in other areas, Common Core is not going to provide you any standards at all. You also have to decide with this list of proficiencies how much you want to break them down into micro-proficiency. Let's say that you want every student who graduates from your high school to be able to play My Wild Irish Rose on the trombone. So you can just go straight straight to that, hand the trombone and say, learn to pay my wild Irish rose. We're going to check and see who's proficient on that. Or you can break it down into small proficiencies. You can say, well, first, we want you to learn how to put together a trombone. We want you to learn to play a bunch of different scales. We want you to learn particular notes. We want you to learn time signatures. And you can break my wild Irish rose down into different phrases. You can break it down into all these little bits. That turns out to be a really difficult and complicated task, because when you get into fairly complex activities, how do you break them down into smaller pieces? And if you break them down into smaller pieces, is there any guarantee that the student who can do all of the smaller pieces can do the larger proficiency you're after? That whole business turns out to be a big challenge on its own. You have to set sequence. Part of the idea of competency-based education here for is that the student doesn't go on to B until they've done A. Until they finish B, they don't go on to C. And you'll notice that when we talk about competency-based education, we frequently use math as an example. Because math is a subject that seems to lend itself well to sequence. As an English teacher, so I can't make arguments for or against that with any degree of authority. But in other subjects, setting a sequence is not so obvious. If you're of a certain age, you may have come up through school learning that first you have to learn to write a sentence, and you can't write paragraphs until you write sentences. And once you write paragraphs, then you can write essays, but you have to do things in that order. Since then, we've figured out that that's not really true. And in fact, in some approaches to English now, we do the exact opposite. We have students write entire essays, free write, and then we start working on the nuts and bolts and the specifics of it. Well, how do you want to sequence that in a competency-based education setting? How are you going to put things in order? And you have to think hard about this, because you're saying that your student can't progress to this task until they've completed this one. So this one had better be critical. This has always been a challenge in any kind of class. And this is where we've made compromises in the traditional setup. In the traditional classroom, very often as teachers we say, okay, Chris has done the best he can with this stuff, but we've got to move on. And that's criticism of the traditional setup, that when we move Chris on too many times, when he's only, or she's only sort of gotten material, then that deficit increases with time. But sometimes it's not an issue at all. When I took physics in high school, I could not grasp potential difference to save my life. So my teacher threw up his hands and moved on, and for the rest of the year I was fine. If I had to stop at that one unit, then I would have missed a half a year of physics. And we also have to consider, when we talk about CD, we often talk in terms of a high school setting. With the elementary setting, we've got a whole different set of factors in play. How much frustration can Chris, when Chris is 7 years old, take being stuck at one particular unit before Chris is allowed to move on? You have to choose tasks. You have to decide what tasks the student is going to do to prove proficiency. And what we're seeing across the country is that there's a very wide range of options being chosen here. All of them have their own particular drawbacks. At one end of the scale, we have standardized tasks. All the students complete certain standardized tasks in order to show proficiency. At the other end of the scale, we have teacher-created tasks. The teachers create all the tasks that the students do to create proficiency. Very often, and I think this is the case in your state, but you know better than I, CD is teamed up with performance-related assessment. Performance tasks to do, and that's the measure of whether they reach proficiency or not. The challenge here is that you need many tasks. You could have your students analyze fast food business patterns in the community, and it could be a really good performance task this year. Next year, can you use it again? Not really, because next year's students will just ask last year's students what they did and how to do it, and you're now assessing students' ability to share information socially, but you're not getting the same kind of clean assessment of proficiency that you got the first time you used the task. So you find that you need a huge library, an ever-renewing library of performance tasks in order for the students to be measured on proficiency. And what we're seeing in many schools and places where they've adopted CBE, parents become increasingly frustrated with the fact that, well, my kid proved proficiency by doing this thing, but your kid only had to do that thing. And last year, the kid across the block did something else entirely. How do we even know if all these kids are showing the same level of proficiency? But of course, if you go with a completely standardized bank of proficiency measures, then you've got the issues of standardization. And then once you've decided on what the task is, next you have to decide how good is good enough. How well does the student have to do in order to show proficiency? And one of the things that we tend to dance around with when we talk about competency-based education, and one of the things that represents a big shift when it's implemented, is that we're essentially talking about a pass-fail system. The student is either proficient or they're not. And that means that setting the proficiency level becomes really tricky. Because if we set it too low, then our high-functioning students are going to be really bored, and they're going to polish it off in a day. Some of you, I know, are of a certain age, and like me, can remember the wonderful SRA box in your elementary school. And for some people, the SRA box was a challenge, and if you were like me, your goal was to blow through that box as quickly as you could. Get me the purple, baby. I'm going to get there. If things are too simple, your students get bored. But if things are set too high, now you've got a problem with students who are having difficulty clearing the level of proficiency that you're demanding of them. This is probably one of the reasons that the state of Maine kept backing away from making their Maine adopted CBE. They adopted it as a state. They attempted to implement proficiency-based learning, called PBL up there. And they kept backing away from making their diplomas based on proficiency-based learning, because every time they started to look at it, someone would pop up and say, do you have any idea how many students are going to not graduate from high school if you do this? We go, oh, well, let's study this for a minute. If you set your levels too high, then you're going to have a bunch of students who aren't going to be able to go to bar. This is why, all the way back to mastery learning, part of the rhetoric of this approach has been all students can learn everything eventually. Because if we admit, or we say, that all students can't learn everything eventually, then we have to admit that a competency-based education program is going to drastically fail those students. So we go with, everybody can learn everything. And of course, at the high school level, I always found that kind of disrespectful of the students, because my students could generally learn everything, but many of them didn't choose to. And I often open my ear with this talk. I'm not suggesting those students were lazy or that they were somehow deficient. As adults, we make that choice all the time. What I would say to my students is, I could probably learn conversational Chinese. If I dropped everything else that I do in the course of the day and just studied nothing but conversational Chinese for several years, I could probably learn it. But I choose not to, because I don't see any utility in it. I don't see any cost benefit to me and the amount of time and effort it would take for me to do that. And nobody labels me learning disabled or a difficult problem student or calls me lazy. As an adult, I'm allowed to make those kinds of choices. As a teacher, I feel we saying, recognize that students they have agency, they have choice. And sometimes they will look at the utility of busting a gut for your class and say, I don't see the utility here. Our job as teachers is to convince them, cajole them, push them. But this was another thing I always said as a teacher. You can't make students do anything. When they're little, we calm them and think we can make stuff. By the time they hit high school, they know that. So saying that all students can learn everything, it's a nice safety on a CBE system, but it's not necessarily accurate. Setting proficiency level also points to our time management problem. If Chris has checked off all the proficiencies on Chris's list, can Chris go home now? What are you going to do with Chris for the rest of the year? Start next year? When Chris is 14 years old and they finish all the proficiencies for high school, are you prepared to hand Chris a diploma and send Chris on his or her way? And on the other end of the scale, if Pat is 21 years old and Pat still hasn't finished all of the proficiencies on your list, and Pat on his or her way. Competency-based education, like mastery learning, like outcome-based education, gives us real new challenges with time management. Depending on how you set up the system, that can come down to the day. And this is where it becomes a practical issue in some communities with parents. You're going to tell parents, okay, you're going to send your kid to school at 8 o'clock this morning, they'll be home sometime between noon and 4. Whenever they finish their checklist for today, we'll send them home sometime between noon and 4. Parents are not always enthusiastic about operating that way. The other thing that has turned out to be a big sticking point, I'm not prepared to argue whether this is a legitimate sticking point or not. What I tell you is it is a sticking point. Because your system is essentially pass-fail, what we keep seeing in a lot of places that implement this, we saw this a ton in Maine, is parents of high-performing kids get upset. Because if my child's report card just says proficient or not proficient, my child's report card is a list of proficiencies. Even if I've used some of the standards-based grading like the Buchanan grade or that sort of thing. Suddenly, my outstanding kid who used to be pulling the 99s and the 100s and was in the running for valedictorian and was getting praised all the time for having super-duper report cards, suddenly my kid's report card doesn't really look any better than anybody else. We can have a discussion about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the parents of those kids are pretty sure it's bad. They're also concerned, and this is a part of CB that's often not addressed in the thinking about what this means for that kid getting into college. If my kid is applying to college and his transcript is just 10 pages of 2s and 3s and 4s, what does Harvard say when it looks at that? That problem of pass-fail, again, gets to some other issues. I used to say there's a question you never ask as a teacher. Students find dozens of ways to ask it. And those of you who know versions of this question. Exactly how many sentences do we have to have in a paragraph? How many pages does this have to be? Do I have to turn this in class, or do I have till the end of the day? It's dozens of questions, and they're all versions of the same question. And that question is, what's the absolute minimum I have to do to get by on this assignment? And unfortunately, CBE, by its very nature, answers that question that you should never answer. What I always told my students was, you're supposed to amaze me. But doing the bare minimum is not amazing. If you're in a relationship with somebody, if you just started dating somebody and they turn to you and say, It's the absolute minimum I have to do to keep this relationship going. Your first thought to yourself is, oh boy, here's a keeper. Absolute minimum is nobody's idea of amazing, but absolute minimum is what CBE is set up to be organized around. What's the absolute minimum we will accept from these students before we say, you're a graduate of our system, you can move on to the next step? And that, in my opinion, is not a good thing to organize an education system around. There are other problems with several setting levels, but I would argue that one is that proficiency is not binary like a light switch. As a writer, as a musician, an athlete, a historian, you always grow and develop. There's never a point, if you think about your own professional development, your own professional career, your own professional life, you never reach a point where you can say, okay, I've got it. I've flipped the switch, I am now proficient, I'm now master of this part of my work. I don't need to ever work on it ever again. Mastery really is not, and again, I'm arguing my opinion now, mastery is not a location, it's a journey. And by saying that we've reached the level of mastery, we're denying that journey. CBE to me is antithetical to the idea of developing lifelong learners. Because instead of saying, as good teachers do now, okay, you've done that, come on, let's keep going, let's keep going, let's keep climbing the mountain, come a little further. It says, okay, you flip the switch, you're done with that, let's move on to the next thing. Master that. One last issue with setting proficiencies. You get in real trouble when it's time to set standards for social and emotional learning. And this is one of the things that killed outcome-based education in Pennsylvania back in the 90s. At least in Pennsylvania, outcome-based education included outcomes for students' social and emotional qualities. We all know that these social and emotional qualities, what we used to call soft skills, are really important for students' future. But as soon as we start saying the school is going to grade your student on how good a person they are, parents, for some reason, get upset. Go figure. It is imposing a set of values on students. And it was that exact feature in outcome-based education that raised up a whole bunch of parent outcry and resistance to OBE. All right. So switch to another question. Why is this reappearing now? Why, at this particular point in history, has this suddenly emerged again? Well, it almost requires an individualized approach to learning, which means teachers have to have a truckload of materials, they have to track a whole bunch of student progress, they have to keep a ton of data, there's a whole bunch of performance tasks needed, we have to track where each student is. There's so much data to track and so many materials to keep track of that it cries out for technology. And what brought CBE back around again is people saying, hey, look, we now have the tools, I think we can make it work this time. And if we look at the people who are advocating for competency-based education, we find people like the International Association for K-12 Online Learning, Integral, and their organization, which is Competency Works. These are people who are heavily invested and long-time advocates of use of computers and technology for education. CBE theoretically doesn't have to be about computerized learning. It certainly wasn't about computerized learning in the 90s or in the 60s. It doesn't have to be, but what we see right now everywhere we look is that it is. One of the most popular versions of CBE out there is Summit Learning, which was a program that was developed, a company that was backed by Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg even lent them Facebook engineers to help them develop their program. They've given it out free, in much the same way that Facebook is free. I know the saying about free products on the internet. If you're not paying for it, it's a great product. But that product's in about around 300 schools. Many have pushed back. Just last week, a bunch of students at Bronx High School walked out over sign. Everywhere we see people pushing back, we hear the same criticisms and the same complaints. It's easy to game the system. Students in the Bronx say, sit right there, cut and paste the questions into Google, Google the answers, put the answers in, you're done. In a summit-like system, teachers are facilitators. Your student goes to school, log on, they see their playlist, checklist of things to do today. They might see the teacher if they have a question or a problem. They might see the teacher if the computer has a problem. Promise is that they'll get 10 or 15 minutes, a 10 or 15 minute FaceTime session with the teacher per week. Teachers are referred to as facilitators. Because they're not doing direct instruction. They're just there to facilitate and help things along. These groups like Summit groups that are pushing these kinds of programs are very sensitive to the presence of technology. They know that people don't get excited about plunking students down in front of screens. So they will generally downplay the technological elements, but it's always there. They talk about mass customization, right up there with the jumbo shrimp. Two things that don't go together. Once we get the computers involved, there are other implications we have to deal with. These programs are meant, they're designed to track and analyze student performance. That's what they're there for. They're collecting tons of data about each student. Summit has already admitted that it shares data with at least 19 partners. Even if that intent to collect data is benign, even if the sharing with the partners is benign, every time that data is shared, it's opened up another possible front on which it can be compromised. And the use of technology shapes what we are able to include in the system. If I'm going to use a computer as the backbone of my competency-based education system, then my competencies, my tests, my proficiencies, my assessments, all have to be things that function within a computer environment. For English teachers, that's always a problem. We've been hearing for 20 years that some company has finally developed awesome software that will assess and grade student writing. They haven't. It still doesn't exist. But even if you're going to grade the student writing yourself, now you're going to have to create your assessment in some sort of form that can be entered as data into the program. Using the computer as a tool shapes what kind of data you can include and how you include it. I am not an anti-tech person. Tiny little rural small town school was a one-to-one school 10 years ago. And I helped implement that. But anytime you bring technology into the classroom, you have to be aware of how the tool shapes what you can do and what you're going to do. Other things to be concerned about with CBE. There are a few other possibilities to watch out for. CBE lends itself real well to workforce training. And it is another way that if you're not careful, you can find that your school has stopped being a school to educate students and has become a school to prepare workers for a particular business concern. Businesses are only too happy to enlist schools to do their employee training work. But unless they are offering every one of your graduates a job, that doesn't serve the needs. I've had business people say, well, we need a bigger pool for widget manufacturing. We would be happy if you would crank out 100 well-trained widget students at the end of the year. So what you have to ask, well, are you going to employ 100 widgets makers? No, they're going to employ 10. They want their choice of the 10 best widget makers out of the 100. But as a school, that's not really serving the 90 kids who did a good job. Now they've been trained to make widgets, and they're unemployed widget makers. about how CBE allows learning to happen at any time and any place. And it's true. And this is kind of a slippery slope discussion, but it's worth paying attention to. This makes CBE a perfect setup for the unbundling of education. So that what some people envision, a future where you can get your certification, your little mini credential, in anything from anywhere, meaning we don't need teachers and we don't need schools at all. Have your personal data record on the blockchain, and that stores all of your competencies that you collect from lots of different places, and we don't need schools, we don't need teachers. That also dovetails with vouchers for educational savings accounts. The idea there is that at the state, I hand you an educational savings account, a debit card with money on it, and you just go shop. Find one vendor that will sell you a math credential, another vendor that will sell you a literature credential, and again, no need for schools. Competency-based education, like personalized learning, doesn't exist anywhere inside the elastic model. Can't afford it. Nobody can afford it. Nobody can really afford personalized learning. Nobody can really afford competency-based education in all its glory. So one of the questions you always have to ask if you're a school district, parent, state considering it is, where are the compromises going to be made? Which corners are going to be cut? What things are going to be left out because they would make it too expensive? Will time really flex, or will you hold on to 180 days, 7 hours a day? Will students get individual work, or will they all get the same work, and really your personalization is just personalized pace, not personalized content? Competency-based education at its worst is really ineffective. Many of us have experienced it. If your workplace had you do one of those workplace trainings about sexual harassment or confidentiality or other policies and procedures, and you may remember the training, you pull up what is essentially an online PowerPoint presentation, and you let it play at your desk while you go do other things, and then at the end it gets to this little 5 or 10 question multiple choice quiz, which you can take as many times as you need to, so you make your best guess based on common sense on what the answers are, and if you don't get it right, then you just keep doing it. Right? That's competency-based education at its absolute worst, where all of the wrong compromises. Where students and families have rebelled, Bronx to Connecticut to Maine to Tecumseh, we hear the same complaints. I have to sit at a computer all day and teach myself. Teachers become facilitators instead of teaching, and it becomes really difficult to tell how well students are actually doing and what they're actually learning. CBE advocates admit that it involves a radical culture change in the district. And that's why in many districts they run into trouble because rather than try to build it from the bottom up, they either imposed it or tried to sneak it in from the top down. Districts become involved because some advocacy group threw a bunch of money at it. Because there are plenty of groups out there who stand to profit hugely from competency-based education if it's implemented their way. And they are willing to put their money where their mouth is, because for them, it's an investment. And the lack of a well-articulated argument for implementing CBE comes back to one important fact. Mastery learning, outcome-based education, competency-based education has never been proven to actually work. We've been fiddling around with this stuff for 50 years, and there are elements of it that we've all incorporated. Everybody who's ever filled out a lesson plan that's starting with Tecumseh, the student will be able to. That is an artifact of mastery learning and outcome-based education. There are pieces of these programs in what we do now, though. the whole thing, the whole picture, the whole conversion, it's never been proven to actually work. Maine spent a ton of money on this. Just 6 years in, they backed away from the whole concept. Advocates of this are still looking for a state or district to serve as a proof of concept. They don't have one yet. And that lack of proof, that lack of evidence, is probably one of the weakest parts of competency-based education. It has a foundation in something that makes sense. And certainly, there is no value in letting a student sit in a seat for 180 days on a potted plant and then handing them credentials at the end of 180 days because they did a good potted plant imitation. But creating that kind of accountability, holding students accountable for actually learning something, doesn't necessarily require us to change our entire approach to how the school system works.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Green. Now we'll open it up to comments or questions for Tom, Pam.
Well, I would just say,
Yeah, I want to hear the comment.
It's on YouTube.
We're done?
It's on YouTube. We can share the link, so they go live for another. So, yeah. But I thought we'd have a discussion about it. And I don't know if you guys have seen that video or not. So, but, I don't agree with everything he says there. I follow Peter Green quite a bit, and I have quite a bit of philosophical differences on things in life, but I think we did get a top-down implementation, where this maybe should have been a little slower of how it was implemented.
Well, beyond that, I think it is important to note that it's a part of the education. I think he made that point. It's a part of what teachers do now. And like everything, there's good parts and bad parts. Is it a replacement for curriculum? I don't think so. I haven't seen any evidence that it is. Is it part of a successful curriculum? Yeah, it has benefits to students, and anything that benefits students should be put into the curriculum. As long as you can afford it and it can fit in, put it in. But as a complete curriculum itself, no, I don't. I have to agree with him there. But I don't think it's a viable way to go.
Well, one of the things that I said, I think I said it to you, Brad, is that teachers have been mass customized teaching for 100 years. They know the weaknesses of their students, they know the strengths, they challenge the ones that need more challenge, the ones that need more work, they concentrate on them and bring them up.
Ready for me to jump in?
Yes.
Jump in.
I don't know where to start. I think it's really important for every expert to listen to from one side. I can find another one from the other side. I have a person who I regard as one of the brightest educators I've ever been around. I consider her an expert in competency-based learning. I'd love to have her come in here and talk to us sometime about what she thinks. I'll be honest with you, I was a little offended by the presentation, because in the 90s, in Lenawee County, I was considered one of the gurus in outcome-based education. I went to Vail, Colorado. I listened to all the people, Kip Marshall and Bill Spady and all those things, and I saw the demise of it in Lenawee County, in Blissfield and Adrian and some of those school districts at the time. And I'll tell you what this gentleman didn't mention is that some of those places that did outcome-based education changed the name and did exactly the same thing, and the people who were advocating against it said, oh, yes, it's this now, we agree with that. But they didn't agree with outcome-based education. But all they did is change the name and did exactly the same thing. So, look, we got a long way to go in this district. There are some things that have to be changed with the way it was implemented. I understand, I get that, I agree with that. I have been here for 4 days. I've been in every single building. And I can guarantee you what I saw in the buildings I walked into was no different than the buildings I've walked into in Kansas, the buildings I've walked into in Kentucky, the buildings I've walked into in other school districts in this county or in this state. I saw kids learning the way they've been learning forever. I saw them engaged. I'm not, there's questions I have to ask, and I'll ask them. There's some things that, I'm not sure about. I'll find out. But to watch the kids here in Tecumseh that I've seen in 4 days and in the buildings I've walked into, it's absolutely, I could go anywhere that I've been, where my son's been a principal, where my daughter's been a literacy coach, where his wife's been a literacy coach. I can go to all those classrooms and see exactly what's taking place in Tecumseh, the learning that's taking place. It's just no different. So I didn't see some of the things that the gentleman talked about. Now, do I agree or disagree with everything? I think a couple points that, I'll give anybody the benefit of the doubt. I think a couple points he made, okay, I can look at that up, I can figure that out, I can research it. What I really want, I might not get. What I really want is for you guys to everyone just to relax. Just to take a deep breath. Just to stop what we're doing. And let me figure it out. I really believe I can. Okay? I really believe that we're very, very close in what we're doing here. And one of the things that I've told everyone, and I'll tell the board, I'll tell the audience, a couple of different things. I'm not taking sides. I'm not taking a side. I may personally believe that one side is, but I'm not going to take sides, and I'm not going to let anybody know what side I'm on. All right? The second thing I'm going to ask everybody, the board, the community, any little group that's out there that I don't even know about, okay, is just to ask yourself, when I get up and I talk, when I do something at the podium, when I make a presentation, am I moving this district forward? Am I digging the hole any deeper? Or am I starting to fill the hole in? I told people that, people have said to me, how are you going to be successful in a short amount of time? And I said, look, success to me is real simple. It's just get the community to stop digging the hole. Just don't dig it any deeper than you've already dug it. And if I can get a couple of shovels of dirt to throw in the hole at the end of a couple of months that I'm here, or whatever it's going to be, I think that's a success. But I can't do that. I can't stop anybody from saying what they want to say, nor will I ask anybody to not say what they want to say. I just want people to think about, when they say it, am I helping or am I hurting? Am I digging the hole deeper, or am I starting to fill the hole in? Because, we talk about the thing that's really important. That's our students. And they are important. And as educators, I'm going to tell you something. It's not a business. Okay? A business has a couple of things that affect them on a day-to-day basis. Okay? They have maybe, whatever it might be. But educators, you've got everybody affecting you. And we call it I call it the whirlwind. It's the enemy of execution. Okay? And when we add to that whirlwind, when the school board adds to it, when the state legislators add to it, when parents add to it, when all these other people add to that whirlwind that educators have to do on a daily basis, the decisions they have to make, then our kids, our students are affected. Okay? When they read about this in the paper, when they hear about parents talking about it, when they talk about it on Facebook or any kind of social media, it's affecting our students. So that's got to stop, in my opinion. Okay, that's my whole role here, is to try to get trust built back into this community. And there's enough blame to go around. We can blame past board, present board, community members, teachers, administrators. We can put blame on anybody, but it's really not gonna help the problem. Okay, so, look, I don't know if I'm short-term. I could get told to go home tomorrow, okay? Or if I'm gonna be here for 3 months, but I guarantee you, as long as I'm here, I'm gonna advocate for trust, because if we don't get trust built back into this community, it doesn't make any difference what we call our instructional strategies or our curriculum or whatever we want to do. It makes no difference whatsoever. If we don't get trust built back into this community, it's just not going to make any difference. So let's focus on the students. Let's think about what we do, okay? And let's just ask ourselves, are we filling the hole in? Are we digging it deeper? Okay? As far as this goes, look, Tim and I, we've had some fantastic conversations this past week. Fantastic. It doesn't mean I agree with everything he says. It doesn't mean he's agreed with everything I said. He's pushed back on me. I've pushed back on him. We've had fantastic dialogue. That's the way it really should be. Okay? We've got some things to do, and one of the things I'm going to advocate for our staff to do, and I know they're capable of doing it, they're good people. I had a fantastic meeting with them on Thursday. Fantastic. Okay? Love every single second of it. I'm going to ask them to, let's define what we're calling this, how we want instruction with our students. Okay? Let's make it our definition, because some of you guys already said it, you're absolutely right. We've been doing some of this stuff forever. Take a look at how our military has been training forever. It's basically outcome-based education. It's how they train. Okay? So, I don't know, look, the guy's, you know, he comes from 50 miles away. I think I come from what? Maybe 30 miles away. Down. Okay, maybe 29 miles away. So I'm really not an expert.
You're taking sides.
You know, this guy 50 miles away, he's an expert. Okay, so he's got his opinion. I can't agree with everything. I don't disagree with everything. But, you know, quite frankly, some of the stuff he said I know is not happening here in Tecumseh. It's just not happening. Okay? So we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out what is happening here in Tecumseh, what needs to happen. That's not happening right now. Okay? We're going to talk to people, get their opinions. We're going to figure it out, and then we're going to let these guys come to you and share with you. And as a school board, you can say, you know what, go back to the drawing board. That's the power you have, collectively, 7 of you together. You know? But let's do it the right way. Let's let these guys figure it out, bring it to me, let me bring it to you, and if it's good, you're going to sit there and agree with it. If it's not, you say, you know what, Brad, let's go back and figure this out again. And then we go back to the drawing board, and I talk to other people, and we figure it out. So that's all I'm asking. You know, let's just take a deep breath. Let's just relax. Let's not rush into anything. We don't have to do that. We can get this figured out. I really believe we can. Okay. That's my spin on it. I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight. I was just going to sit here and listen, but you know, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, I guess. So.
Sunday's closing out this week?
I don't know. Something else, Brad, but they should be closing out this week. Gotta figure out the date when to close them out. So.
The survey?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll give us a lot of direction.
So.
And again, take the data and And let's not make decisions based on whatever, something says on the
That has
survey
never
or
been our
data.
plan.
Right, let's take the data and let's use it to look at and make other decisions with. Sometimes you have to take things with a grain of salt, sometimes the evidence is right there and it's really plain. And but sometimes the data, you gotta take a lot of different data points to really get to the bottom of it.
But I'd like you to have that
Right.
feedback.
Right,
to build
exactly,
on.
yeah.
Speaking of data, we got this data on the math, that some of the scoring from the testing that the math department put together. Was there anything they were gonna put together for science, or?
They don't test for that.
Okay.
Yeah, NWA, so.
See, that's the only problem I think we all had, is that there was little tracking of, I would think when you implement change, first of all, you would implement it a little slower, so it didn't shell shock everybody, which, we're not gonna, I guess we can't rehash that constantly, but we're move it to a place where everyone feels like their needs are being met as best that we can. And to know that all kids are getting a good education. I don't think that we think that guy was all in the bag of chips and we're doing everything he said, but it's another, and we all did our research. None of us could find any proof anywhere that this actually works. And in fact, bits and pieces of it do, but maybe not, just diving into the pool. I'm sorry, I'm still talking.
We do have science NWA data, though, if you'd like that.
Yeah.
Well,
One
we've
of the
asked for it a
things-
million times.
Yeah, one of the things that I will tell you about, the math stuff that we just got from the math teachers. I think that they work really hard giving that data. One of the things I'm going to try to find out though is that, there's really no reason why they needed to take stacks of NWE things from students. NWE does all that for us. Okay, they do all that. All that information should be somewhere. Someone has it. Okay, and there should be data. That's why you go to NWA. You don't have to sit there and take all the things that the students have used and crunch those numbers. That data is there somewhere, so I got to find it. I'm sure, I think I know where it's at now. We'll figure it out. But there should be any NWA testing in any subject should have the data that we can go back and take a look at. And one of the other things I want to make sure we take a look at or remember is, you can't take the data of one set of data and make a lot of assumptions with that.
Right, you have to look at everything,
Okay.
sure.
For example, that data will show us if the data is if the data reflects it that NWU has in math. It'll show us that there's a dip in 7th and 8th grade. Well, guess what? That's a national crisis. Every school in Michigan, every school across the nation, not every one, but the majority of schools show a decline in 7th and 8th grade in all their testing. It'll go up in 4th, 5th, and 6th, and it goes down. And there's all kinds of research out there of that phenomenon. A lot of people have different theories about it. And obviously we can sit here and make some assumptions in our own head of why 7th and 8th graders might score less, on those kind of tests. The real key is going to be back in freshman, 10th grade, 11th grade, and see if they go back up. Okay, the real test of the STEAM centers is not going to be, what.
But ideally, you don't want your test scores to go down at all.
No, you
You should
don't.
probably try to not be like the national
Well,
average.
I get that, but you have to take a look at that information. It's not just a Tecumseh
Right,
thing.
yes.
It's a universal thing.
Right.
Okay? The real test of the STEAM center is going to be 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. It can't be just 1 year, one set of data 1 year. Okay? And what I would look at, and I won't be around. Okay? I'll probably, be tanning somewhere. Okay? But what I would look at is, how steep the incline is going to be going back up. If the STEAM centers are really doing a great job, then when those kids recover after that dip they take in 7th and 8th grade, they're not going to just plateau. That would send a real problem to me. Okay, a bad message to me. But if they spike up, then you know that those STEAM centers worked because the kids then took that information, learned it a different way, and then when they were tested again, instead of maybe taking that track that they would naturally take, what the national average or the state average might be, if they're going up like this, even steeper, that would be success in the STEAM center. But you're not going to know that for another 3 or 4 years. Now, you may know some other trending data. You may know some other data, for example, if, you know, the perception is that students aren't getting enough English, for example, or they're not getting enough math, for example. You might be able to, there'll be holes in some of their learning when they get tested, and you might be able to track that in short term. But those are all things that...
Right, but I'm just saying as a school district, that's what we need to do. We need to track at every level, at every, you know...
And you are.
Every goal.
Right. You are. The NWA does that, the M-STEP does that.
They do that, but
data.
we as a school, do we do it? I don't think so.
Yes.
And if we have that data, it should be, we should be able to prove that our STEAM centers are working, or that we need extra work here or there.
Right. And yes, you do have that data. I'm pretty sure I can get my hands on it. I would be surprised if you don't. But I want to make sure I've said this to you right off, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I want to make sure that you understand that you cannot judge whether that STEAM center is working on one set of data.
Right, I'm not just talking about the STEAM center. I don't want to be specific about one certain thing. I want the overall picture. I want to know that, I mean, there's a reason why we lost 200 families.
160.
200 kids.
We're going to try to find that out. That's
I just want to maintain, I just want to compromise that we know is working and that...
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to say at the beginning. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Okay, there are going to be compromises that have to be made. Okay, and if everybody wants to win, we're not going to get to that compromise because we can't have it both ways. Okay, we can't have everybody.
We've always just wanted a compromise, and we've received so much pushback that even during this presentation, people were playing on their cell phones. I mean, it's a total disregard for any kind of compromise or any kind of open mind. Now, I came into this wanting to compromise. I still do. But the meanness and the face making and the comments, and I mean, I can hear them right now. So it's very difficult to work with people and compromise when they treat you in such a fashion.
Well, we're going to work on that.
Okay, good.
Okay, we're going to work on that, and I think we can. I really believe that we have a group of people here who will be willing to have a really good product. Okay, and do the right things for students. And I don't think we're that far apart. I think we're doing all really good things.
Oh, I don't think we're that far apart either. I agree with you on that.
So we're going to do the best we can, and I appreciate your point of view.
And I appreciate yours.
Okay, and we'll work on it. Okay, but I just want everyone here to know that my observations of what has happened, and it's only 4 days, and no one knew I was coming to their school. I just trotted in and people said, who are you? And I'm the new interim superintendent. Oh, okay, and I just walked down the hall and went into a classroom. And today I had 2 students, in one of the buildings, give me a tour. Okay, and I talked to them, and they were very candid. Okay, and they told me some things that were really positive, and one told me one thing that was pretty negative, or kind of negative in his point of view, and that's okay. Those are students. Okay, and we're going to listen. We'll listen to them. But my point is, good things are happening. You know that.
Oh, I know.
Okay, good things are happening, and learning is learning, no matter where you're at. Okay, and I really believe that great teachers will go in their classroom, shut the door, and do great things for students, regardless of what anyone's telling them from the state or anybody else. Okay, I really believe that. And I think there's great teachers here. And I think there's some really good people that we can move forward with. Okay, and I apologize, I've talked too much. Okay, so this girl right here that's next to him, I already told her to kick me. Anytime she needed to kick me, and she hasn't kicked me yet, so we're going to have to have a little talk. Okay?
Any other comments? All right, let's move on to action items. So we need to approve Brad as a signatory, give him the authority to sign documents and so forth.
So moved. We'll give him, well, sorry. I move that we give Brad Hamilton the authority to sign on behalf of the schools.
move to approve the consent agenda, which is the meeting minutes from the April 8th regular meeting.
Second.
Second.
Who made the motion? Oh, you did? I didn't hear it, it was like secret. Go ahead.
Roll call Brooks.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
McNamara.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And this brings us to our second public comment portion of the meeting. So if anybody would like to make a comment, the agendas are full, so you're limited to 3 minutes, and please state your name.
Hi, I'm Melanie Hicks. I just want to say that kudos to you guys as the board tonight. This is the first meeting that I've been to that I haven't wanted to leave crying. I think there was some really good dialogue on this table, and thank you for being part of that. I like to hear that Tim and you have been talking, and these conversations need to be happening. And we need to be respectful of both sides. Suzanne, you had mentioned that people were on their phones. I was actually doing my research on this gentleman while he was talking, because I wanted to know who this guy was who was talking about the curriculum. And so that if that seemed disrespectful to you, I do apologize, but I was doing my research as well. And maybe that's what everybody else was. So again, we can't be jumping to conclusions about things.
Oh, I know.
And that's where I think that break of communication happens. So I do want to just mention kudos. This is the first time that I'm walking out of this room feeling like I think that we're going in a good direction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say it's great to hear some of this dialogue here. It's wonderful that we've got stuff going on. I will say I was also a little insulted by the video, and here's why. The guy's not scrupulously adhering to the truth, and I have an issue with that. When somebody says things that aren't true, it makes me question the other things that they say. I guess it's good to be king, because you can have people like this board that was there, they called this person forward to speak, and I assume that somebody there that was on that board said, well, this person has value of some kind to add to the conversation. And then those people had to endure listening to this guy. I've seen his blog, you've posted things before from this guy. I wouldn't base any of my decisions on what he's got to say because of what I've said, not being truthful. It's a serious problem. And then I just wanted to say, as far as the Cary School thing, boy, I sure hope we can continue to have that. It seems like an excellent opportunity for Tecumseh that has been great for our children. It troubles me that there's a fundamental misunderstanding of how these things function and how they work, and how there might have been a disconnect when you get rid of somebody who's the person that heads up something of that nature, and that you would then have to follow up and make sure that the person that you're hiring would know about these things. But that wasn't the case. The person didn't know. But it's fine. It is what it is. But implicit in this thing, I just want to make sure you guys understood this. They came to Tecumseh because of the transformational changes that had been occurring over the past 5 years. And I guess I can't say his name, so the superintendent, or maybe not, that's okay either, I don't know, he said, that we don't have much to do to get to the final place or a better place than what we're at now. And that's how I felt before the recall happened. And I feel like if you guys really are honest in what you're saying about compromise, then there is a future for us to not dig holes. But if that's not the case, I'm grabbing my shovel. Thank you.
These darn tall microphones. I'm Melissa Hilton, and I'm an educator here in Tecumseh, and I too was on my phone, and I apologize because I do, like at dinner time, I tell my own kids, put your phone down, that's not respectful, but I was looking for, I'm new on Twitter, and I hope that the board and anybody out here The audience will follow me because I'm new, but so I can tweet now. And I have a really cool post or whatever about one of my students, and he is the most charming, darling child. And I am happy to say that I did facilitate and I modeled for them. And my kids are competent, and they're all engaged. And he was reading a story, and that was like a trickle effect for the rest of my kids. I was absent for Celebrate Tecumseh, which I'll get back to Celebrate Tecumseh in a moment. But I was so excited because my substitute said, "Oh my gosh, I love your class. When can I come back?" And a lot of teachers don't always hear that, especially kindergarten teachers. So kudos to my kids for behaving. But because this little boy, Caleb, was reading, it was a trickle effect, and then the next day, somebody had gone home and practiced a book. Can I give it away, Anna? It was Anna's granddaughter, and she read the book in front of the whole class, and it was public speaking, and it was literacy, and it was working together as a team, and they didn't come in September doing that. It's because of what they're learning from each other. And so I'm really excited the direction that my school and my classroom and our community hopefully is healing. Which takes me to Celebrate Tecumseh. I've had the honor of being on the committee for 6 years, and I saw a lot of you there, so that was nice to see familiar faces in the crowd and show our public what we do have to celebrate. And we have to remember that Tecumseh High School was just the building it was hosted in. It's because it's basically we could get that facility for free, and all of the businesses or churches, I'm sure everybody knows what Celebrate Tecumseh is now, but it was amazing to see the community come together. And then lastly, Mr. Hamilton was talking about how we're going to use our shovels, and I just wanted to tell you that at North Early Learning Center, another kindergarten teacher and myself are going over for probably the 10th year in a row to help the city of Tecumseh plant trees for Arbor Day. And so you guys are invited. It's April 6th or 26th, and it will be at the cemetery, and the kids do a little presentation and talk about what they've learned. And then Dan Ryder, who's the I think his title is the superintendent of
He's the sexton.
Pardon?
He's the sexton of the
Okay, thank you. So anyhow, he's super excited because we're planning on coming again. So we are going to be the youngest pillars of our community, and we're going to fill in some holes, and hopefully our community saw that at Celebrate Tecumseh and saw that tonight with the healing process of open dialogue, and we can agree to disagree respectfully. So thank you for your time, and I hope you come back and see us at North. Thank you.
Thank you.
A motion, if there's any other board comments?
I have a couple of comments. First of all, last night I had the opportunity to go to the Tecumseh Band Aid, and it was great. There were performances by our students, our staff, community members, and alumni. It was really great. And the other thing is, could we get an update at your meeting on our grants, the status of them?
Sure. Yep, absolutely. Someone out here knows the status of our grants, and I'll find out who that person is. Yeah, good point. I also have some information for the board. I've been in contact with MASB. Mike, you kind of spurred that conversation and idea, and they are just waiting for dates, and they're more than willing to come here and do any kind of training that the board sees fit. Mike, you might jump in and let the rest of the board know what you think.
Yeah, there were 3 classes that there's one on the superintendency, and there's also one on how to be an effective board, and then there's one on what was the board? How the board's supposed to be.
Yeah. And look, they're your organization,
Right.
and I really believe you should have a relationship with them. You don't have to have, they don't have to do everything for you. You can pick and choose, but they're ready and willing to come here and talk to the board and give you some classes, and I think probably you should take them up on that offer.
Yeah, they had a list of about 10 that are formatted that they're ready to go with, And those are just the three that I thought would be good for us.
So I'm willing to get back with her.
Can you email us that?
Oh,
Huh?
I'll get it to you.
Yeah, give it to Tim.
Give it to me, and I'll email us.
And really, all you have to do as a board is just think about it and get some dates in mind, and then I'll contact Debbie Stairs from MESB and get some things ready for you.
Is it 3 different dates you need, or how does that?
I think we'll just start with one date.
They're each an hour long, I think, so you can do it.
I mean, is it possible to do them
I'll
in a
ask for that.
session?
Yeah.
3?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm heading in my business.
They do night most of the time. Mondays are a premium for them, as you can tell. You know, usually Mondays are gone because everybody wants Monday. Every board in the state usually meets, a lot of them meet on Mondays. They do Saturdays. They'll customize it to you, whatever you guys decide is the best day for you.
Saturdays are best for me.
And that's really all I have besides.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm done.
Okay.
Kevin, Stephen?
Oh, no, I said enough.
Okay. So, just kind of echoing the Celebrate Tecumseh was a great turnout. Great job, ladies. I don't know who all participated in it, but it's the
Angel
second.
Mensing heads it up, and it's such a cool event. Like just from start to finish, like the floor that's laid down on the gym floor before, and the collaboration that goes on in our district, and you rob Peter to pay Paul, and who has an extension cord, and don't go to Martin's and buy it. We can get you some here, and I don't know where the orange tablecloths came from because there were only 7 or something, and we needed 12. But
I understand that. The night before, my daughter apparently had a booth there, one of the school exhibits. And the night before, I was asked about some ball pit balls that she needed for that, which of course are in storage. So we supplemented with Easter eggs. So yeah, you figure it out. You get where you need to go. But it was a great experience. Lots of people, lots of positive feedback. I saw a couple of us there, and I've heard more were there than I saw. So great job, and keep up the good work.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
Brooks.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
McNamara.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Simpson.
hey, you guys, I didn't tell you the time. It's 1:30, like 12:45. We get back. Yeah, we get back from lunch at 12:05. I will. I just emailed. I got you. But
This is
I got you. If I don't write it down, I now have a hard time. As I say, I really just have No, I do.
But I'm going to try something. I'm really going to try. Really going to try.